Many people will refer to rogues in Vanilla WoW as overpowered, and point to the fact that they could stunlock someone forever until death as proof of this. But could rogues really do that? And where did this infamy come from? Back in Vanilla WoW, rogues had a lot of things going well for them. Before patch 1.8, slow weapons did a lot more damage than faster weapons for instant attacks, which affected rogues' most used combo generator, Sinister Strike. Rogues could macro weapons into abilities with no cooldown on weapon swapping, so you could always hit with the sword for Sinister Strike, and always hit with a dagger for backstabs whenever you wanted. Eviscerate, rogue's main way of spending combo points, just did a large sum of static damage, and didn't scale with anything. It also did really good damage for what it was, and could do about 50% of a player's health as damage to low armor targets with a crit. Plus, DRs on CC abilities were a lot more lax during this time period, and PvP trinkets didn't remove all types of CC, only certain kinds. If you cheap shot someone for a 4-second stun, then used Vanish and cheap shot again right after, the next one would only be for 2 seconds. It's just lots of abilities didn't share DRs like they do today, and rogues had a lot of different CC abilities. Rogues had a total of 5 good CC abilities they could use. Cheap Shot, which required them to be in stealth to use and stun the target for 4 seconds and gave 2 combo points. Kidney Shot, which with 5 combo points could stun for 6 seconds, and did not share DRs with Cheap Shot. So if you used Kidney Shot right after a Cheap Shot, you could stun someone for 10 seconds. Gouge, which incapacitated the target for 4 seconds, which broke on damage and could only be used from the front. Sap, which could only be used in stealth, incapacitated the target for over 10 seconds, but did remove you from stealth during this time period. And finally Blind, which caused the target to wander back and forth for about 10 seconds and also broke on damage. Of these 5 CCs, Cheap Shot and Kidney Shot were the most used and useful, but the other abilities absolutely contributed to the infamous status of the stunlock rogues. Most people just incorrectly associate stunlock rogues to only Cheap and Kidney Shot. So, where does this infamy come from? In Vanilla WoW, a user put out a video by the name of World of Roguecraft that wanted to prove that a rogue who knew how to play his class was unbeatable, and showed this by getting on a rogue with no gear and only a starting zone dagger, going out into the world and ganking high-level PvPers. And with most of these kills, the rogue never took any damage, and was able to seemingly stunlock a player to death. But surprisingly, stuns played a very small part in these CC chains. The real MVP of these videos was Blind. The player would go up and open with a Cheap Shot, build combo points, vanish, and then Cheap Shot again, only with a 2-second duration. After those 6 seconds of stuns were over, he would use Blind, and then just wait to leave combat. Re-stealth and then sap. Wait to leave combat again, and then re-stealth and pop Preparation. Preparation was a cooldown that reset all other rogue cooldowns. That way, he was good to go for another rotation. The reason he waits through a full Blind and sap is to let Cheap Shot come off DRs. If we count up all the seconds of CC, that's 6 seconds for Cheap Shot, 10 seconds for Blind, about 10 seconds for sap, for a total of around 26 seconds of CC. Only to reset the cooldowns of Blind to do it all over again. And during these 2 26-second long CC chains, the rogue also gets in at least 2 Cold Blood Eviscerates. Cold Blood, of course, was a cooldown that caused your next attack to have a 100% crit chance. Which, remember, Eviscerate could crit for nearly 50% the health of a geared, low armor target in Vanilla WoW. That, with a combination of a few other hits and maybe one other normal Eviscerate, could kill a player in a 1v1 situation. Even if, over the course of the 50-second fight, only 12 seconds of that were spent in a stun. Although, the main power to the stunlock was actually Blind. Blind is the MVP of the stun rogue rotation, yet you don't hear about the infamous blind rogues. In fact, blind was so strong with preparation resets that for the rest of WoW after vanilla, Blizzard made sure it excluded blind from being reset, starting with the start of the Burning Crusade. So what about just pure stun rogues? Well, in the same video, the character shows duels in the open world with an actual geared rogue, and uses this ulti with good gear and an item that refills your energy bar. The rogue was able to kill some people with only a cheap shot kidney shot combo. So he really did kill people in a 10-second stun lock. Although, not all of them. A lot of the matches required more skill than that, but he was able to kill some of them within that stun lock window. Of course, it's also well known that some of the duels in those videos were staged, but that didn't really matter. What did matter was that it was technically possible to kill geared players with a rogue naked, but only in one-on-one situations and only against classes that couldn't break your CCs, unless you were really good. So is World of Roguecraft the only reason rogues were known as stun rogues and so overpowered? Kind of. Rogues were the only class who could easily stun a player for 10 seconds straight with a simple cheap shot kidney shot combo, which was pretty good. But also, rogues were just really good at the beginning of the game too, and were very easy to play well. Once patch 1.8 hit and weapons got normalized, they lost a big edge and damage that they once had, and that kinda brought them in line with other classes. So, for a while, rogues had good damage and CC. Most private servers run with patch 1.12, which is a lot more balanced and takes place after the weapon normalization patch, so you don't hear too many complaints about rogues from the private server community, who like to pretend they played vanilla WoW. So when classic servers come out, you don't really have to worry about rogues being overpowered, but rogues do have a really good matchup against most classes in PvP. That's another thing that kind of contributed to their infamous status. Against Clothies, rogues hit the hardest and only have to worry about a good mage who knew how to kite. Most hybrid classes were garbage and not really a concern for a pure DPS class like a rogue. And that just kind of left hunters and warriors. A pet could keep the rogue in combat and not allow CC chains, and warriors could break saps and hit through their defensive cooldowns. But both classes had a crucial weakness that rogues could take advantage of: the 5 to 8 yard dead zone. If a rogue was smart and just put its bleeds up and kited in that dead zone, they could just slowly bleed kite a warrior or hunter to death. So now let's break everything down. A naked rogue could kill a player through a complicated CC chain, but that CC chain revolved around blind and not really a stun. A geared rogue could kill a player through a stun lock, but not always, and only against certain classes. Rogues had an above average damage for a majority of WoW, but not towards the end of it. And finally, rogues had good matchups against all classes in 1v1 situations. And I think it's a combination of these four things that leads to the notion of rogues being overpowered in vanilla WoW, and led to the infamous name of the stun rogues, which was only further reinforced in the Burning Crusade when mace spec rogues became a thing. Especially since it's a common misconception that mace rogues were a problem in vanilla WoW too. But that's another topic for a different video.